Hey folks, rinimt here, and welcome back to Tiny Bunny. Thank you, Serenity Forge, for the code. Well, we've made it to episode 3, and Semyon is now missing. We got our glasses back. That owl showed up. We got our glasses back, and Semyon's missing. So I have a feeling. Anyway, he's the one who hated Barbarian. You think he did it? I've heard he's a weirdo. I hurriedly rubbed my glasses. The glasses! Semyon was clutching them in his fist while I was getting beaten up. And in just a couple of hours, this lost item was lying on the ledge of my window. It was hard to imagine that Sioma would suddenly got guilty conscience and returned my glasses in such a strange way. I was shocked but kept walking toward the classroom, accompanied by nasty whispers all around me. That photo still stood before my eyes. Semyon had gone missing. Semyon is gone. His fat fingers will never get to my throat. His signet ring won't smash into my chin. He'll never humiliate me again. Wasn't that what I wished for? On the other hand, did I really wish Semyon to become a murky stain on the notice board? He was still someone's son or a grandson, and he went through the same struggles as me. Did I really wish for my unseen companion to dispatch him in such a brutal fashion? I didn't know the answer. Or was I just scared of it? Nonetheless, school still had something nice about it. Polina, the girl with the violin, was like a mountain spring, like well water that you gulp down, pressing your lips against the zinc outer ring of a bucket, and can't ever get enough. What if I make her one of the characters in the story I'll draw? The protagonist will save her from terrifying monsters. As soon as I thought of monsters, a bunch of my classmates slid down the rails, smirking like the xenomorphs from the Alien. Immediately felt larvae of fear right in my stomach. I didn't want to cross paths with Romka and Biasha after what happened yesterday, especially since Semyon suddenly went missing. I entered the classroom and went toward the last row. All of the chatter suddenly died down, so I walked there in complete silence. It felt like my classmates pushed and poked me with their stares. They carefully observed my every move. They looked at me with a mortifying mix of pity, ridicule, and derision, like a scientist looks at an ugly representative of a newfound species of worms. I stared at the desk with a huge pile of library textbooks on top, my fists clenched. I felt like I was the one who disappeared in that snowy forest, and my desk was finally used for something worthwhile. Semyon's empty chair stood in front of me, the chair that once belonged to Vova gathered dust somewhere in another classroom. I guess I'll sit down here? After a moment of hesitation, I sat down at Baburin's desk, the place where I was supposed to be assigned by Lilia Pavlovna at first. The chatter resumed as if someone just unpaused the movie. Baburin's grandma made such a fuss when he didn't return home. First she ran to the school, then called the cops. Yes. Kaya snuck a cunning glance at me, then leaned into her neighbor and whispered something. Girls from the second row also leaned in. She shared something with them too. Whispers. Nods. I kept catching her stare on myself. Her neighbor stared too. The whole class was watching me. It was like they felt the need to watch me because they were searching for traces of blood on my fingers. I wanted to defend myself and shout, "Guys, listen, I'm innocent!" The delinquents turned around and stared at me in silence. Their looks were dripping with malice. But why? What did I do to them? Their friend went missing, and they're still focused on me. Suddenly I noticed Biasha drilling a hole in my nose with his eyes. It felt like he was about to point his finger at me and shout at the top of his lungs, "Everyone look! Baburin snatched his glasses yesterday, and now he has them back. A murderer." But he remained silent, as if there was nothing special at all about my glasses. I may be going mad, but I think Biasha knows something. He knows something, but he won't tell me what. As if looking for protection, I clutched the ruler until my hand hurt. You don't have to be at Colombo to solve this. Who held a grudge against Baburin? The metal ruler fell out of my weak fingers. It hit the floor with a jingle, and that made the other kids shudder. Katya bit her tongue and squirmed nervously. Chairs scraped against the floor. My classmates moved away from me, closer to the exit, toward the teacher's desk. I was not the only one to catch wind of that change. Romka and Biasha looked around and winced in contempt. Too bad that they weren't afraid of me like everybody else. Shut it. I bet you Baron just got a whipping from his old hag and ran off. They'll find him soon. They'll find him all right, in a ravine with his stomach cut open. I gulped. Wow. Imagine Sioma in a snowy blanket, on a snowy blanket, his face white like a fish belly, split down the middle by the crevice of his mouth, snowflakes falling on his glassy eyes and filling up his throat. See? I could almost hear his condescending tone. It's all your fault. But why was Semyon the only one to get his just desserts for bullying me? Weren't all of them supposed to disappear? Romka, Biasha, Katya, along with every laughing onlooker? Of course, Semyon did me a favor by disappearing. Thanks to him, my classmates now stared at me in awe. That was only one side of the coin. What if I'll have to repay that favor soon? The door creaked. Polina entered the classroom. I straightened up in a hurry so she wouldn't see me looking like a scared critter. Polina went to her seat without looking at me. The ringer's trill announced the start of the class. Alright, stop messing around. Class, stand up. You too, Petrov. Lilia Pavlovna went to her desk, followed by a policeman in uniform. It was the man that visited us just recently, tall and his stare so sharp you could get cut on it. Hello there, kids. Hi. You can sit down now, kids. This is Senior Lieutenant Konstantin Vladimirovich Tikhonov. He's going to ask you a couple questions and give you a small PSA. The class livened up. Talking to a policeman was way better than studying. I, on the other hand, was ready to sit through hundreds of hours of Russian literature just to escape the lieutenant's oppressive stare. His brown eyes felt around the classroom looking for me. Hair stood on the back of my neck and an icicle had lodged in my gut. Is it true that Baron got killed by a serial killer? Shush, Ekaterina! Let the adults ask the questions here. We're all scared. Maybe the killer is somewhere close. Maybe they're even sitting among us. Her sly stare was directed at me. Tikhonov stepped in between the rows of desks and started walking at an excruciatingly slow pace, brushing his fingers against the chairs as he passed by. Some of the students almost broke their necks following his movements. That's how a crowd of commoners would gleefully anticipate a public execution in the Middle Ages. And he just walked, getting closer and closer to me. I gritted my teeth to stop myself from screaming. Calm down. Breathe. You didn't kill or kidnap anyone. Hi. He already knew the answer to his question, but the policeman still asked in a stern voice. Anton Petrov? Yes? Stand up, Petrov. My muscles turned to stone. I got up, unglued myself from the chair. I felt like I could hear all my joints creak in the process. I only wished that Polina wouldn't turn around and see the grimace of horror on my face. If only I could be somewhere far away, in the forest, digging myself into a snow pile, rolling up into a ball there. The officer stared at me as if he was about to lock a pair of handcuffs on my wrist. I wonder how cold these bracelets are to the touch. I imagined myself getting jailed and put into a juvenile detention center where tens of Semyons would constantly harass me. I don't know anything. I have nothing to do with this. Nobody is accusing you of anything. For now. Only then I noticed the file that said case number in his hand had a gray cover made from rough carton. Flopped onto the desk like a guillotine blade that slid down on someone's neck. With a measured notion, Tikhonov opened the file, still studying me with his gaze. Caught a glimpse of documents and photos. They showed prints on the snow. They looked like animal prints. Have you talked to Semyon Baburin before? I only knew him for a week. Everyone knows that Petrov hated him. Turned red. You ugly. I want to sink my teeth into Katya's face and chew out her cheek. Instead, I replied with the calmest voice I could muster. We had a fight some time ago. He hit me. A voice came from the side. You're screwed. Hey, Pyatiffonov, shut your mouth. Staggered, barely able to keep my balance. Surprisingly, Lilia Pavlovna came to my rescue. Baburin is a troubled teen, a true pain in the rear. The officer replied with a meaningful nod and fished out a notebook out of the file. Is this yours? I averted my gaze. It was a math notebook with my name on it. My classmates devoured me greedily with their eyes. It felt like even the writers of the portraits squinted at me in suspicions. Yes? We found it in the forest. In the area where the tractor driver who was plowing snow there last saw Baburin. I started blinking in bewilderment. Romka ransacked my school bag. This notebook probably just got lost somewhere in the bushes. The lieutenant knew about the school brawl, but was he aware of the fight in the forest clearing? Eyewitnesses that could testify to Semyon and I walking in different directions after that. I looked toward the boys, hopeful. Romka, who sat behind Tikhonov, put a finger to his lips. When the officer quickly turned around, he pretended to pick on his nose. I deciphered this signal. Boys like Romka would probably say something like snitches get stitches in a situation like this. I frantically fixed my glasses. Wait, Semyon took them away yesterday, but now they're... So what were you doing in the forest yesterday, Anton? I go to school through the forest. It could have easily fallen out of my bag. Easily, just like me producing this half-truth. Be careful out there. Before I could realize whether it was a genuine piece of advice or a veiled threat, the teacher said, Class, the officer will now tell you some rules you should follow. So the killer does exist. We can't make any of this public for now, so you tell a bunch of kids. Whether the criminal really exists or not, you should be mindful of your safety. Please, your parents and your teachers all watch over you, but no one guard you better than you yourself. Alright, any questions? A stockade of arms rose from the desks. The kids shouted over each other, swarming the policeman with questions. In an attempt to calm down that chorus, he moved toward the blackboard. The gray file was left lying in front of me. I stared at it, my breathing so ragged that it might have looked like someone who just ran a 100-meter sprint. Beads of sweat rolled down my back. I looked around the classroom. My classmates were catching the officer's every word. Lady Romka was saying something to Biasha. Lilia Pavlovna was staring into the window, fighting back yawns. As soon as I touched the folder, Tikhonov lashed at me with his eyes. My hand instinctively moved away as if that stare actually hurt. The officer just kept staring at me without saying a word, making me squirm under the weight of this uncomfortable silence and the sneering looks of my classmates. Then he suddenly continued his speech as if nothing ever happened. Does he, look away? Nobody paid me any mind as I slowly opened the file. My fingers started sifting through the documents. Aww. Ksenia Talaleva, 6 years old, left her home sometime in December. Identifying features, okay. I almost jumped out from the ribcage. A round-faced girl no older than Olya smiled back at me from the photo. First victim of a serial killer? The first child to disappear in the forest without a trace? Turned another page. Vladimir Matyukin, 10 years old. Vova was the second. His mitten hanging from the branch, his name, called out by desperate adults and repeated by the sneering echo. Lilia Pavlovna coughed, trying to calm the rowdy students. I yanked my hand away and the file closed. Open. I clanged my teeth from surprise, pushed back into the back of my chair, blinking in bewilderment. The officer silently gathered the documents and gave me a stern look. Well, aren't you a curious boy, Petrov? Let me say this again. If you see anyone suspicious in the village, be it near the school or on the forest trail, contact the police immediately. You know our number, right? 02. Thanks for listening, boys and girls. Thank you, Lilia Pavlona. We'll find your classmate. Yeah, right, a thought flashed through my mind. Dig through enough ditches and maybe you'll be able to piece them together. Like Legos. My thoughts turned to evil for some reason. I couldn't control them. I tried to switch to the lieutenant's speech about suspicious individuals. What if I saw the killer before? What if I was a hair's breadth away from them? Suspicious people, How suspicious was the fox girl that wandered in the darkness? A weirdo that always appears out of nowhere and then dissolves into thin air with her riddles and rhymes. Could she really harm the hulking Semyon? Should I tell the officer about her? What if lives of other students depend on... What if lives of other kids depend on this? The cute Ksenia or Vova too? Wait, what if I get mocked for speaking up? What if they'll start whispering behind my back, or what's even worse, think that I'm insane? Ronka gave me a stern look over the shoulder. I doubt someone like him would approve of cooperating with the police. Katya's braid dangled nervously behind the delinquent sitting in front of me. My hand was glued to the desk. Tikhonov was saying goodbye to Lilia Pavlona. He was about to leave. It'll be too late soon. Oh gosh. Stay silent. No way. I've had enough humiliation. I keep my head down, like a bunny. I lock my fingers and zip my mouth. The bell rang. Did I avoid everyone's attention? I guess from doing that. Lilia Pavlona passed by without looking my way. Polina left after her. My classmates went silent at the same time as if someone muted the sound on the TV. They followed me with their eyes the whole time I was passing between the rows. Judgmental looks. I felt like I was in the scopes of many sniper rifles. I squeezed through the barricade of desks made of desks looking for Polina. I stumbled into my new buddies instead. Romka swaggered up to me. Decided to rat us out to the cops. I didn't say anything. But sure as heck thought about it. Excuse me. Romka towered over me, breathing out a faint smell of tobacco. You're very wrong if you think that without Semyon you'll have a better time here. We'll make this place hell for you. Got it. See you, Four Eyes. My head tilted forward from his slap. What a loser, eh? Wasn't surprised to find a note stuck to my back during the break. It said, kick me. My nightmare clearly wasn't about to end. It's been 7 days since the lieutenant visited our class. At first glance, everything was still the same. The forest still held out its gnarly claws toward the village, and the wind whipped up white flags weaved into powdery snow every night. When my parents argued in the other room, I would turn up the TV's volume to silence their muffled voices and sit close to Olya. Bova's and Semyon's photos were still 2 black spots on the notice board, and round-faced Senya hasn't returned home too. But something did change. I could see how different the looks of my classmates were. They met me with a new portion of pokes and insults. Contempt, mockery, and loneliness became my faithful companions. But most importantly, a shadow slid across my desk, leaving behind a mysterious note. I glanced into the space between the rows, but the messenger was already nowhere to be found. Who sent me this note? What could this carefully ripped out and neatly folded piece of paper be hiding from me? More threats and humiliation, or... I took the piece of paper and carefully inhaled the wafting aroma. Blackberry. Inside was a message in beautiful handwriting. I'm waiting at a dead end near the dressing room. Come alone. Drunk on that sudden call, I immediately started walking, looking over my shoulder from time to time, making sure nobody is following me. Even though I suspected it could be another trap set by Romka and Biasha at first, this buzzing thought soon left my mind. The two of them didn't have enough combined brain power to fake Polina's note so carefully. I didn't even notice how I almost broke into a run and jumped around the corner. As soon as I did that, I ran into somebody in the dark nook. Inside the dark nook. Ow! Like a magic bird, a green notebook glided to my feet. Polina puffed her cheeks in exaggerated anger. Petrov, have you lost your sight completely? Fix my glasses. My nearsightedness wasn't that embarrassing anymore. I bent down and picked up the notebook. Hello. Sorry, I was in a rush. Were you waiting for me? Did something happen? Polina studied me with her eyes and clicked her tongue. Do you know what you look like, Antosha? Like blues improv. I blinked in bewilderment. What do you mean? I always associate people I know with something. I do that too, but why music? It can't be anything other than music. Some people are like guitar solos, some are drums, some like our Lily Pavlona our war marches. And you're so thoughtful, so mysterious, sometimes even a bit sad. You're definitely blues. And what about the improv part? It's when the listener has no idea where the melody will go, what tempo it will adopt. Of course, some of the things Polina said went completely over my head. But I couldn't stop looking at her smile, light like a breeze in May and her eyes deep and blue. One needs to have experience and taste to recognize the music in you. You're not some pop music. I don't think I even know what blues is. Polina gasped and frowned, which made her look even more beautiful. Don't say something like that to my face! I'll make sure to give you a cassette. Grandpa used to bring me so much music from the city, jazz, swing, and classical too. He was the one that knows my musical mindset. When I was still very little, I tried recording the sounds of nature on paper, the songs of the rain and the forest. I wish I had ears like yours. And I'd love to have your eyes. I tensed up, worried that she was making fun of me, but Polina shook her head. No, I'm serious. You have the eyes of an artist. You're so good at picturing things. I can't do that. Kaya walked past us with her trademark frosty glare. We dove into the shadows trying to escape it. You understand why we're hiding here, right? Because of people like her. And what kind of melody is Katya? Polina flashed me a sly smile. The squeaking sound of unoiled door hinges. You know, that nasty discount. I giggled, covering my mouth. Kaya didn't hear our whispers, but she suddenly glanced over her shoulder, clearly annoyed. A moment later, she sighed and went her way. I remembered about the notebook I was still clutching in my hand. I turned it in my hands. Instead of a subject name, the front side had the name of the owner in 2 words. Friends only. Curiosity killed a cat, you know. I'm sorry, is this a questionnaire? Have you ever filled one? I lied that I had. In reality, girl classmates from my previous school had never asked me to fill their questionnaires. It was quite upsetting. I mean, it was a girl hobby. You just answer some of the standard questions about your favorite actors and colors, but entrusting someone with such a notebook was a sign of friendship. And maybe of something even more, something I only had a vague idea about. You can fill in mine if you want. My heartbeat quickened. I do, thank you. Polina giggled. Actually, there are so many secrets there. You'd be better off not knowing what we girls think. She reached for the notebook, playing with me, and tossed my finding into my free hand. Polina tried to intercept my move. Her hair briefly touched my face, tickling my nose with its silky locks. I sensed an aroma that immediately filled the whole world, fragrant, alluring, lively. If only I could picture it, steal it for myself. I felt dizzy, but I gathered myself and spoke in a voice reminiscent of Lieutenant Tikhonov. Your questionnaire is an important piece of evidence, so I'm afraid I have to confiscate for further examination. Polina covered her mouth that rounded in fake horror. What are the implications of concealing evidence? We'll decide that in the course of our investigation. I surrender, Mr. Policeman. Just promise you won't read anything. It's full of sensitive information. I'm afraid I'll have to investigate whether someone's in love with Mr. Petrov. Polina burst out laughing and pressed herself against my chest, showering me with the aroma of her hair and her milky skin that looked almost transparent, with tiny threads of veins running under it. Her whisper was hot, like a piece of butter sizzling on a pan. And then swear that you will keep this information private. I swear on my police badge. And now we need to hurry, Antosha. I took out the notebook during class. Skimmed through it, reading into other people's preferences. I was quite surprised to discover Romka's jerky handwriting inside. His letters bulged out of the cells as if embarrassed by their shapelessness. Pierce and Romka found time for something so silly. I chuckled into my fist after I found out that Romka's favorite cartoon is not even Darkwing Duck, but DuckTales. Romka, 6B, Shafutinsky, February. Hanging out, buying a BMW, Schwarzenegger. Don't trust, don't fret, don't ask. 3/15/87, DuckTales, Vyasha. Somewhere in the distance, a teacher was reciting a piece of Andreev Snapper. I paid them no mind. Polina's page was decorated with flower drawings and clippings from the Cool Girl magazine. Her favorite musician is Schubert. Her best friend is her grandpa. Her hobby is not violin, like I expected, but much more mysterious listening. Can such a mundane process really be someone's hobby? I looked at Polina over the heads of other students. She was focused on taking notes. Flipped the page until I found the blank one and armed myself with a pen. Anton Petrov, class 6B. It took a long time to decide my favorite musician until a trendy pop band, Carmen, came to mind with the cool dancers in their music videos. Favorite holiday, this one's easy. New Year's. My hobby is drawing. My dream, going to Disneyland, I guess. My hero. My hand moved on its own, writing D8. I stopped on those two letters. What if those who read this after me will find my answer laughable and stupid? After thinking for a bit, I decided that not everything should be disclosed on paper. That's how how DA turned into Spider-Man. The spelling was wrong, but who cares? Your biggest fear, huh? I immediately wrote, losing a person who's dear to me. Your phone number. No secret here, 30395. I thought that was a birthday, but it's not. Okay. Favorite cartoon? Transformers. Your best friend? I hesitated, gnawing on the pen's cap. Your best friend. I read the question out loud. It was easy, but at the same time very important. The answer to that was my sister's name, so I carefully wrote it into the squares. Olya. Olya. I repeated my sister's name while sneaking out of the school. Aww, little dragon. There's a cute, freshly drawn dragon in my notebook that I made to please my beloved sister. In this land of darkness and deceit, her support was the only thing that inspired me to keep drawing and stopped me from losing hope in humanity. Refreshing frosty air made my cheeks turn beet red. It was bright outside, and the sun looked like a whole egg yolk. The road looked as if it was silvered. The snow sparkled under the sunlight. I smiled, squinting from the blinding whiteness. Who cares if I don't have any true friends anymore? I have something more important. Someone who needs my help, who will never betray or hurt me. Family is the most important thing ever. That's what Dad always told me. Hey, what's up with the stupid grin? His numb lips immediately shrank. Vyasha was shuffling with his feet. Let me try that again. Vyasha was shuffling his feet in the middle of the yard, his boots restless on the ice. It's not a grin. I tried to go around him to no avail. Lady Fortune waved me goodbye, disappearing in the early twilight. In a hurry, eh? A little bit. Dad is waiting for me. I'll shoot him a pager message that you're not coming, eh? My eye flinched with unwittingly. My skin dampened. Let's go, eh? We have a small business to discuss. Felt chills run all over my body. I didn't like the sound of that small business. Those words, accompanied by spitting, normally hid very dark deeds underneath them. Strangers that used to call at our old apartment used to say, "Get your old man, we have a small business to discuss." Yasha turned around. He looked like an astronaut in this tight hood. If I were to imagine him as a sound, he'd be a deafening whistle, a signal given by someone who stands watch. To my demise, there was nobody in the backyard. Apart from that grim-faced Romka. He stood there, his feet wide apart, his right hand hidden behind his back. Romka's dry lips were tightly pursed. He kept shooting glances at me as he looked around. There he is, eh? I can see that. Well, hello there, Antosha. What do you want? He slowly took out a thin, carnivorously shiny blade from behind his back. A knife, the steel butterfly of death that flies towards the victim's heartbeat. I stepped back instinctively and ran my back into Biasha. Romka's minion pushed me back. We wanted to know. Do you have any hard feelings for me or Biasha? Romka started picking on his yellow nail, looking at me with an evil smirk on his face. Well, there in the forest, we kind of roughed you up. It's just our poor upbringing, you know. Yeah, not as cultured as you city folk. So we get feisty sometimes. I nodded, my eyes glued to the knife. Blade glowed under the setting sun, and Romka's eyes had the same evil glow. He stepped toward me. His knife traveled inches away from my coat. One movement, steel would cut into the cloth, and if he pushed deeper... A little bird told us that you were snooping about Polina again. I was so scared that it took me a while to remember who Polina was. My brain was malfunctioning. My knees were shaking. Suddenly our class rep slowly walked up to Romka from behind. I see you boys are getting along quite well. I owe you one, Katya. Oh, no need to thank me, Romochka. I'm always fighting for true love. Yes, yes, yes. I'll kill you, I swear. I can't hear you. Were you near Polina or not? Well, we didn't hang out or anything. The only thing hanging out here will be your guts when I cut open your stomach. The blade slid across my sleeve with its dull side and reached my collar. The wind made my face cold and the bead of sweat still trickled from my temple. A switch flipped in my head. It all made sense now. I remembered Romka constantly sneaking glances at Polina. Remembered his scrawly handwriting in the questionnaire. Why didn't I study it more in depth? I see you near Polina even once, and you won't get away with a simple bump. Got it. Yes. Now scram. I was probably so hypnotized by the knife that Romka had to repeat his threat. Scram! Thought about the cold sharp blade when retreating from the yard. I was asking myself whether I had enough courage to break the promise I made to these bastards. The aftertaste of horrible water I drank down my meds with lingered in my mouth. My thoughts were focused on Polina. But Romka's threat was also on my mind. I wandered around the house, feeling intoxicated, and nodded to everything my sister said without trying to discern her words. Olia was talking non-stop, at times lifting up her arms and laughing, only to suddenly go quiet and give me Mom's signature gnarly look. I was yanked out of the prison of my own mind, where seething thoughts pecked at my brain like heartbeats, stopping me from coming back to reality. I stared back. Olia looked like a mini version of our mom right now. Well, to be precise, she looked like the person Mom turned into when we moved here, with her intimidating posture and her eyebrows directed toward the ceiling. You weren't listening to me, were you? She tried spitting out those words at me, copying facial expressions of the person she spent almost all of her free time with. For a moment, I felt like the light Olia exuded all these years waned and wavered in the winds of prolonged changes. Very soon, my beautiful princess will turn into the dragon that was once guarding her prison tower. That thought was much scarier to me than any other horror sneaking up to me from the future. Sorry, Olya. I didn't want it to make you mad. I just got lost in thought. I looked around the room, my gaze jumping from one object to another like a hungry beast, trying to find anything that could distract Olya. Let's play the console. Olya pouted, but there was a spark of interest in her small emerald eyes. The Snow Queen's ice shard inside them started thawing. And what about the second controller? It's not working. And Dad has no time to fix it. We can play with the light gun? What do you want to do? Cowboys? Ducks? You're better than me at both. Oh, come on. You must have been practicing the whole time I was away from home. Olya burst out laughing. Her heart was warm once again. How did you know? I'm a good shooter now. You've already lost. You picked the wrong fight here. Come on, turn it on.